Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Hoot and Holler podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk all about my recent experience competing in the national qualifiers for the Settlers of Catan. And by recent, I mean yesterday. I'm still recovering from this experience. It was quite a wild time. My brain is completely broken, but I'm going to try my best to get through this. Honestly, I'm just grateful to be alive at this point. The Settlers of Catan is a board game designed by Klaus Teuber in 1995. And Klaus Teuber is like this really cool German guy. He's out there designing board games for the world, for the community. He's designed a bunch of games, but Settlers of Catan is definitely his most famous. I think most people have heard of this game, and even if they haven't, like they would look at the board and be like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. It's this big board surrounded by a blue ocean, and the inside is a giant landmass made up of all these individual hexes, and the hexes have different types. So it can be like a forest, or like a rock quarry, or a field of sheep, and they all produce different resources. And you're going to be producing resources and using those resources to develop the land and build settlements and build cities and earn points. And this game gets cutthroat. Like if you thought Monopoly was a friendship ruiner, you're going to be in for a rude awakening the first time you play Catan, because it introduces this fun element of the desert and the robber. So the desert is like the one tile on the land that doesn't produce any resources, and this is where the robber lives. But if you roll a 7, which is the most common dice roll in the entire game, just statistically, you're going to take the robber out of the desert and put it on a different tile, and it'll block any player from producing resources there. So in the game, someone might have like this beautiful city, or maybe 2 or 3 beautiful cities built on like a forest. And every roll, they're just producing like tons and tons of wood. But you roll a 7 and you snap that robber on the forest, they're shut out until someone rolls another 7, or maybe until the end of the game. And that's where things get tense, because they're going to hate you. They're going to hate you. And when someone puts the robber on your tile, you're going to hate them. But that's not all, because when you put the robber on the tile, you also get to steal a card from them. And the cards are the resources. So it's kind of a double whammy. You get blocked and then you get stolen from. If you are a victim of the robber, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. You probably are entitled to legal action, but you know what? It's all in the fun of the game. And if you're strong enough to move past it, I think you have a chance at being a winner in the Settlers of Catan. If you've never played the game before and you're feeling a little bit lost, I highly encourage you to get out there and buy a copy. Get off your phone for a couple hours, roll some dice, make some sheep. It's like the best time you're going to have, and also the worst time, because the emotions are just such a roller coaster. But it's a lot of fun, and I think everyone should play Catan at least 20 times in their lives. If you don't want to play and you don't want to learn to play, hopefully you still get something out of this video, because I'm just going to be talking about like the emotional highs and lows of this competition. It was very intense. So let me just start with some backstory. I found out about this competition because my cousin is like an avid Catan player. He said in college, his freshman year, they played 80 times in like the 9 months that they were in school together. So he's like a very skilled player, and he's been on the competitive scene a couple times before. He told me that he competed, I think, in 2 or 3 other national qualifiers before this. This time, the competition was in Burbank, which is near where I live. So he invited me and asked if I wanted to go. And the reason he asked me is because I love board games. So, I mean, you can probably see I have a whole shelf there and a whole shelf there, just filled with board games. And I have played the Settlers of Catan before, but only like 2 or 3 times. So I was not like a skilled player, but I feel like I'm pretty good at games. So I was like, why not? I'll give it a shot and we'll see how it goes. So I didn't want to go completely blind. So I organized a game night with 3 of my friends. One of them had played before, but the other 2 were brand new to Settlers of Catan. And I like taught them the game. A lot of them like didn't really play other board games either. And I got crushed. I came in, I think, 3rd place by a fair margin. That was the one time I'd played in the past like 3 years before joining this tournament, and I did not do very well. So my expectations were low. I went in expecting to lose, but I just wanted to have a good time. So I show up at the venue. It's this board game store in Burbank called Geeky Teas, and I go there all the time. It's so much fun. Everyone there was mingling, which kind of shocked me because I thought okay, these are competitive board gamers. They're probably nerds like me. They're probably a little bit anxious and awkward, but everyone was just mingling. I was a little bit impressed. But my cousin and I, we sit at a table and we're just like chatting before the whole event starts. Then this woman approaches us and she says, "Hi, like, I am the creator of the LA chapter of the Catan Board Gamers Club. We meet like this day and this day at this venue. You guys should come." And then she like calls up her group to take a big group picture. And it's like almost everyone that's at this competition. So that's when I realized, oh, everyone's chatting because they all know each other, because they play Catan 3 times a week together on the competitive scene. So that's when I knew, okay, I'm in for a little bit of trouble. Like, I'm way out of my league. These people not only know the game, but they also know each other's play styles. So they're going to be like using advanced strategies. They probably study each other. They're like, oh, today I'm playing against Betsy, and Betsy loves a wood strategy, so I'm going to take her down. That was my fear, and I was very scared. But they had this whole system. It was on an app, and it broke down like all the participants. It grouped you into like different tables and had your stats and your rankings and your game scores, and it was all on this app, which was pretty cool. There were 28 players in total, so we were on the app, and it had sections where you can talk about like what clubs you're part of or like who you're associated with. I don't know, it was like very advanced tournament stuff that I'd never experienced before, but I was very excited. I was like, this is a brand new territory for me. And I'm a competitive person, so I was ready to go. I was ready to lose, but I was ready to go. So before we even started, the creator of the tournament, he like laid down the ground rules, and everything he was saying just went completely over my head. He was like, okay, when you go to the negotiation phase, you are not allowed to do free trade for free trade or block for block. And you can, if someone says that they're going to block for block, then that's an automatic disqualification for that turn. The robber has, and I was like, whoa, I'm not following anything. I don't know what any of these terms mean. I don't think they're in the rule book. These must be like strategic competitive terms, block for block or things like that. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to hope that the people at the table will correct me if I'm doing something wrong. And I'm just going to hope for the best. So then the guy says, look at your apps and you'll see what tables you were assigned to and who you're competing with. And you have to sit in the seat assigned to you, which is also going to be like your player order. So I go to my table. I'm table number 1. The players, I'm just going to call them like ABC. I'll say Abby, Brittany, and Charlie are the people that I'm playing with. Abby is like, oh, I haven't seen you before. Like, do you play competitively? And I was like, no, I've honestly only played this game 3 times in my life before. And she was like, oh, this is an intense table, because Brittany and Charlie, they like win everything in the competitive scene. So I was like, oh, great. Like, my first game in the competition, I'm at a table with like 3 of the most experienced people in the competitive scene of Catan. I was quaking in my boots, and this whole game, honestly, was a blur. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Also, the 3 or 4 times I'd played before this, I'd been playing the rules wrong. So, like, I was already kind of set up for failure. The way the game works is before the game really even starts, technically, you do a placement phase where you each get to put 2 settlements and 2 roads on the board. And then the whole rest of your game has to branch out from those spots because everything has to be connected. In the tournament rules, they were like, you will have 5 minutes to analyze the board, and then each player will get 2 minutes to make each selection for their initial placements. So the setup phase of the game in total is like 15 minutes just to make those placements before I consider the game to be started. I had never done this much analysis in this game, and it just went completely silent at the table. It was like the timer started, and we were like glued. Eyes glued to the table. I was just staring at the board, like pretending to do calculations, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just going to put my settlement wherever the highest numbers are and hope for the best, because I really don't know the strategy. So just staring at this board for 15 minutes, I don't think it's going to help me. Maybe in my second game, when I learn from this one, I'll see what I can do better. I told the people straight up, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've only played 3 times before. And so they were nice to me. They were like giving me strategic tips and like my first moves. They were like, okay, that's good. That makes sense. And that felt very reassuring. I was pretty excited about that. But everyone else was kind of disregarding me because these were like 3 very experienced players. They were all like technically in the lead for the first like third of the game, and I was trailing behind. So I think they were all focused on attacking each other and like keeping each other in check. But slowly I was creeping up. I was like building my little cities. I was building my little settlements, collecting my cards. And suddenly there's this special tile. If you have the longest connected road, it's worth 2 points. And remember, it's a race to 10 points. The first player to get 10 points wins the whole thing. So suddenly I just earned 2 points in one turn. And I was in the lead. I had like 5 points on the board. I had 2 points for having the longest road. And then I have these development cards, which are like secret that you can buy. And one of them had a point on it. And one of them was like a knight, which lets you steal resources from someone else. And everyone was like, oh, snap. Like, he could win in like a couple turns. So then suddenly everyone was attacking me. They came for me. They were like trading with each other. They were like, we have to steal the longest road from him. So they were like colluding. I was just sitting there like, I can't do anything. Like, I'm kind of about to win and they're coming for me. I was just getting attacked. They stole my longest road. So I was back down to like 6 points, and then someone else won. So that was very sad. I did lose. I was winning for like probably 2/3 of the game. 2/3 of the game on my very first game, playing against some of like the best players in this tournament. So it was quite a thrill. I was like shaking. I was like placing my pieces on the board and my hands were shaking because I was scared. But it was really fun. I had a great time and I learned a lot from that game. The first thing I learned is that I had these 2 upside down development cards. And apparently in the tournament scene, if you have an upside down card, they're just assuming it's points. So one of them was a point, but one of them was a knight, which was just like an ability to steal something from someone. And so they were all assuming that I had 9 points, even though I only had 8. So I wasn't as close to winning as they thought I was. So I think if I had just revealed the knight and played the knight earlier, they would have been off my back and I could have held on to that longest road instead of them all working together to steal it. And then big mistake number 2 was I had this opportunity. I was going back and forth with this girl for longest road because they kept colluding to steal it from me. And I had an opportunity to build like 2 roads. And you always have to be beating the other player by at least 1 road to steal the longest road. So I was already ahead by 1. I could have built 2 more, so been ahead by 3. So they would have had to build 4 roads to steal it back from me, which is like a huge investment, both in like turn times and resources. And I feel like if I had just done that earlier, I could have held on to that longest road for the end of the game. I think I probably could have won the game, to be honest. But unfortunately, I made that mistake. I let them steal it away from me. And at that point, then it would cost me like 3 roads to steal it back. And at that point, like I just couldn't. I was a team of 1 versus a team of 3 essentially at that point. So it was game over. And I ended with, I believe, 7 points. So there I was in 18th place, and you had to be in the top 16 to qualify for the semifinal round. And that was my goal. I really wanted to make it to semifinals. So I only had 2 spots to go. And I was like, okay, it's within reach. I can do this. And then it was game 2. So for game 2, I don't have all that much to like share about the game. It wasn't that dramatic. I was at another table of 4 people. 2 of them were experienced players, and another one was like on a similar level. He was like, oh yeah, I've played like 7 or 8 times before. So I was like, okay, we should like help each other out a little bit. So I was trying to trade with him. I wasn't getting much in return from him, unfortunately. I really thought that investment would pay off, but it didn't. But in this game, like my initial placements were just horrible. I thought I was placing in good spots, but for whatever reason, the number 8 was just rolled, I would say like 75% of the time. And the 2 experienced players just happened to have cities on the 8 tiles. So every time that thing was rolled, they were collecting like handfuls of resources, and I was just left with nothing. Me and the other player, we would only get resources like 1 out of every like 6 rolls. We were basically impoverished through the entire game. and they were just running away with it. Luckily, I think I did get longest road again. So I managed to, I think I squeaked out like 6 points total. It would have been 4 if someone stole that away from me. My ranking dropped. It did drop significantly. I went from 18th place to 21st place. And I was seeing that semifinal match slip out of my fingertips. And I realized if I did not win my third match, because there were only 3 preliminary matches, if I did not win the third match, I would not make it to semifinals. And that really lit a fire under my butt. And I was ready. I was ready for round 3. But before I get into round 3, I do want to say something else. The way that this works, so usually when you play Catan, you would just like randomly assemble the hexes to make your map and randomly assign the numbers for the dice rolls. And the board just like is what it is. But for this tournament, the creator, he like crafted his own signature maps. And each board, like it was interesting. There were way different strategies based on like how he arranged the tiles, how he arranged the dice rolls. It was very intriguing. It felt very like Hunger Games, like he's the game maker and he's like throwing us into the arena. So that was fun. So the first game felt very balanced. Like I don't remember any standout features. The second game was like all the ore, like all the mountain spaces where you could collect ore were grouped in like the center of the board. And they all had like very low dice rolls associated with them. And I think that's what tanked me because I put my initial settlement in this low rolling group of spaces. So the first half of the game, like I was not collecting any resources and everyone else was just running away with the game, especially the people who put their settlements on the freaking 8 space because it was just 8 after 8 after 8. They're just rolling these 8s. I really thought the dice were weighted. Like I thought there was something rigged about these dice because every single time it was an 8. But yeah. Okay, moving on to round 3. Round 3. The time has come. This was my last chance to qualify for semifinals. I had to claw my way up from 21st place to 16th place. And the only way I could do it was with a win. I was very passionate at this point about making it to semifinals because my cousin at this point had already won 2 of his 3 games. So he was automatically qualified. And I was like, he drove me to this tournament. If he gets in the semifinals and I don't really want to just be sitting there for 2 hours because each game was taking 2 hours. We were like 5 hours into the tournament at this point. It was crunch time. It was do or die. And I didn't want to die. I'm a fighter. So I knew what I had to do. I actually didn't know what I had to do because I still don't know what the strategy is. But I was going to try my best. I get to the table. The dynamic there, this one's different because no one here seemed like super cutthroat, except we did have the leader of the Catan LA club. So I was like, okay, she's probably going to be very good. It was also interesting because this was like an entertainment table. So she said that she's like an actor and producer. Someone else at the table was like a writer and cinematographer. The other person at the table was a screenwriting student. I worked in animation for a long time. So we kind of bonded over that. I feel like that gave us a little bit more of a friendly atmosphere, which I enjoyed. I feel like I came alive in this game. And I tried to build on the earlier lessons that I learned. So specifically from game 2, I learned just place on a high rolling space to start. Don't try to get fancy. Just try to get as many resources as I can at the beginning and build up from there. And then maybe I can be a little bit more strategic. And I think that's where like my previous board game experience really came in handy because I have like hundreds of different board games and I've played each of them like once. So I feel like I have a good brain for like jumping into a new game and just trying to like put the pieces together and come up with a strategy as I'm going. I feel like that was my strategic edge in this competition versus a lot of these people who play Catan and exclusively Catan. Maybe they develop these like long-term strategies, but they don't know how to adapt as well. I don't know. It's just a theory. But anyway, we started playing and the game makers in this one, they made the board a little bit interesting. It was kind of the opposite of the last game where this time the mountain spaces were like divided amongst the board, but all the mountains were given high dice rolls. And in between were all the low ones. If you were the 4th person to place out your settlements, you still had kind of a bunch of decent options because nothing on the board was all that great. And it just so happens I was fourth person to place in this game. I think that did give me a little bit of an edge because then I got to place 2 of my settlements back to back and I got like pretty solid choices. There were still a lot of options left. The other thing I really wanted to do, and this was just me being like crazy, was that I wanted to build on 8 spaces because in that game before in round 2, it just kept rolling 8s, 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 8s. And I was like, maybe the dice maybe manufacturing wise, the dice literally are somehow skewed, like weighted in some way, purposefully or not, to roll 8s. So I wanted to go on 8s. And let me just tell you, the strategy worked. It sounds crazy, but we were rolling 8s again all the time. And like, yes, statistically, there is a higher probability of rolling an 8 than other numbers, but it was like an insane amount because it gives a breakdown in the rule book. It says 8s should have about a 14% chance of rolling, but I'm telling, it was like 50% of the rolls were 8s. So I was racking up resources. I built a city on a wood forest space that had an 8 on it. So then I was collecting like 2 or 3 wood every single time an 8 would roll. And then I was like, okay, I have all this wood, but you don't really need wood in the end game. Like, wood is good to build your roads, your initial settlements, but once you're upgrading to cities, the wood is completely useless. So then I was like, let me make my way over to this port. They have like little port spaces. And if you build on the port space, you can get like a better exchange rate with the bank for your resources. So I made my way over to a port. It was like a 3-for-1 trading space. So now I could trade 3 wood for 1 of any other resource from the bank. I didn't even have to trade with my other players who get stingy towards the end of the game. And again, I was in that place similar to the first game where I was like kind of trailing behind. People were ignoring me a little bit, but I suddenly picked up steam with all that wood. It was once I reached that port, honestly, the game like completely changed. I was just building, and I had 9 points. I got into another battle for longest road and I was going back and forth, but I learned my lesson from game 1. It all comes full circle. And I said, I'm just going to invest and like, I'm going to build as many roads as I can right now. So it's even harder for that person to steal it back. And that's what I did. And I held on to that longest road until the end of the game. And it came down. I had 9 points. Another player had 9 points. And I was like, I'm just going to buy another development card and hope that it's a point. Because there's only like, I think 6 out of the like 26 cards have points on them. And the other ones are like different powers and abilities. But lo and behold, I turn in my resources. I buy that development card. And sure enough, it is a point. That brought me to 10 points. I won my 3rd game and I was moving on to the semifinals. It was a feeling I'd never had before. I haven't been on a competitive scene in like a long time, like since high school. And at that moment, I was bit by the bug. I was like, I kind of want to do this like every weekend. Like, this is fun. Playing against like all these experienced players and like the tension of it all. It was just such a thrill. I was shaking when I was like buying that last development card. I could like barely turn the card over because I was so nervous and so excited. But it was a victory. And it turns out I secured 11th place, 11 out of 16, moving on to the semifinals. So this was it, the semifinals, the game that I had been waiting for. I felt satisfied. I was like, I'm in 11th place. At bare minimum, I'm going to get 16th place in this tournament, like my 6th time ever playing this game at this point. I don't know if I made any friends because everyone was just very intense, but I was having a fun time and I was like, whether I win or lose this semifinal, I'm going to be fine. Like, everything's going to be okay. I'll go home not feeling like a complete disappointment to my parents. And that's all that really matters. My strategy in this last game was kind of to just do more of the same. I was like, let me build on those high numbers, especially the 8s. Let me try to get the longest road. Also, let me like continue to play up this whole, oh, I'm new to the game. Like, this is only my 6th game in my whole life. Besides like game number 2, where I was genuinely just like sucking, I think it helped me a little bit because people like weren't really paying attention to my placements on the board. And then I would creep up and suddenly be in first place because no one was paying attention to me because I was probably making like dumb decisions throughout. They were like, we don't need to care about him. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. And then suddenly like there I was fighting for first place, winning first place in the 3rd game. So I was like, I'm going to try to do the same thing, which like both was strategy and also just like me being myself because I didn't know the strategy. I was just doing my own thing. But I think like I knew more than I was letting on. Not like rules and strategy wise, but just like I have a lot of experience with board games, and I didn't tell them that. I've played 200 other board games and like learned strategically how to adapt, but that was my little secret. So I'm on the app, I'm waiting for the tables to populate, and I see that Charlie from my very first game is coming back. He's in this round with me. We both made it to semifinals, and we're both going to be at table number 3. And it turns out I didn't have to do much strategically to like continue being this newbie player, because I think he had been like going around talking to like other players throughout the tournament and telling them that I was like a bad or like newbie player who was making bad decisions. Like I think he was spreading this, I guess, truth. It's not a rumor, but like giving me this reputation that I was a bad player and that I was making bad decisions. And I think he blames me for him not winning game number 1, which I'm just like, sorry, like I'm doing my best here with what I can. And if you're relying on other players to play optimally for your strategy to work, maybe you have a losing strategy. Okay. So I do my little thing and I go in and I'm like, oh, like I'm new to this and please don't judge this move because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't have a strategy, which was true. And then Charlie goes, yeah, you certainly play like it. And I was like, okay. And before the game even starts, he says, this time, if you need help counting to 10 points, I have a calculator you can borrow. And I was excited. I was like, wait, do I have a rival? Have I made an enemy in the competitive scene of Catan? Honestly, I wasn't offended because I was pretty confident in myself at that point because I won a game. I was in the lead for my very first game for like the entire thing until everyone teamed up against me to take me down. And the third game, I kind of consider a fluke because of the dice rolls. So I was like, you can call me stupid, but I deserve to be here and I earned my spot. But he was coming for me and he had a grudge. He had a bone to pick with me. I was like, okay, it is what it is. It's game on. And from that point forward, I kind of decided this is going to be a social game for me. I think that's the only thing I had going for me. No, I didn't understand the strategy, and no, I was not crunching like probabilities in my head. But the only thing I could do was socially and emotionally manipulate these people into doing what I needed or ignoring me throughout the first half of the game so I can quietly build up my little city and hopefully come out on top. Well, now that we're in this final game or semifinal game, they said, okay, there's no time limits on your initial placements, on your initial analysis. Whenever you're ready to start the game, you start the game. And the game started. There was no chit chat. There were hardly introductions. And these people were doing like complex calculations. This is a board game about rolling dice and like it's kind of up to chance, a large portion of it. So yes, you can like strategically set yourself up. And obviously that does play a part because the good play, like quote unquote good players were consistently winning. But there's enough chance that someone like me, who's just like a newbie, can come in and still win. So anyway, we're staring at this board for like 20 minutes at this point. We've done, I think, our first round of initial placements. Then we're placing our second settlements. So like the game has really not even started yet. One of my new competitors, I'm going to call her Georgia. So Georgia looks at me and she goes, what was your intention with placing this settlement? Are you aiming for this port or this port? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Am I allowed to tell you? And she was like, well, I just want to know because for my second settlement, I'm thinking about putting it here. And if I put it here, it's a bit of a risk, but I know I can build my road faster than you can and get to this spot and cut you out entirely. But I think we can work together. So if I go here and maybe you can just promise to go that direction. And I was like, whoa, I don't have a strategy yet. Like I have no intentions. I can't like promise you that I'm not going to go one direction or the other. Like it's kind of going to depend on what cards I get and what the dice rolls are. And she was like, okay. And she ended up making like what she considered the risky move. She told me, she was like, I just want you to know that like, I think we should work together. And if I don't build out to this spot, then like my game is over. If I can't build a settlement in that direction, I'm completely cut out of the game and I'm going to come in last place. And I was like, okay, like you won the previous 3 games. I think she won all 3 games. You won 3 games before this, and you're like telling me that you're going to be cut out entirely. I wasn't buying it, but I played the game. I did my emotional manipulation. I was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, for sure. Like, let's work together. Things are going okay. I'm coming in last place for like the first third, which is like, seems to be my standard. I'm trailing behind until somehow I eventually end up catching up. But things are getting pretty heated because Georgia and I were like chatting through the game, and she's giving me advice. I'm trading with her, and Charlie was like, you're colluding. And I was like, well, this is a trading and negotiation game. Like, I've given you opportunities to trade and you keep saying no. And he's like, well, that's a suboptimal trade. Like, you never do a 1-for-1 trade. You're just handing her the game. And I was like, well, she might be able to build a settlement with this, but I also need resources to build a settlement. I'm not just going to sit by with my resources, not trading with anyone while you guys run away with the game when I have an opportunity now to trade for the things that I need. So like, I'm going to do what's best for my game. And if that helps her, it helps her. And I told him, I was like, I don't even know if the resource I'm giving her is going to help her. Like, I'm not keeping track of that stuff. I'm playing off of like the vibes of the board, and I'm just trying to do what's best for me. And he was like, well, that's against the spirit of the game. That's the worst thing a tournament player could ever hear, a competitive tournament player could ever hear, because you're just king making. You're handing her the game and you're just cutting us out entirely. And I'm like, I'm not king making. I'm playing what is best for my game. And if she's the only person willing to trade, then I'm going to trade with her. But it was getting really heated. He was like coming for me. And then eventually he starts comparing her to Donald Trump and saying that Georgia was like using charms and social manipulation. She would always compliment me. She would be like, that's a really good move. And if you do this, we can do, and like, that's how we were communicating. And he was like, that's what Donald Trump does. He starts every statement with a compliment so he can manipulate people. And then like the moderator had to come over and be like, we can't talk about politics. It was just getting crazy. And then people were like kind of fighting. Then I started being like, oh my God, I'm playing with my emotions and this is too much for me. And you better not be lying to me or I'm going to be heartbroken. And I was like saying all this stuff that like, I think I was saying it with enough like subtext to know that I was like kind of joking and playing into the game, but also slightly guilting them a little bit too. Just for like anyone interested, the game makers this time, they arranged the board in a weird way where like all the high dice rolls were on one half of the board and all the low dice rolls were on the other half. So in the initial placements, like everyone was just crowded in one section and we were all cutting each other off. So strategically, I knew I could not rely on the longest road like I had on my other games because I was just not going to be able to connect all my properties. Like there was just no way. So I was like, I need to change my strategy. I need to make this purely based on like my settlements on the board and then my development cards and just try to earn points that way. That was like the only chance that I had. I was in it the whole time. I was trailing behind for like the first third maybe, but then the dice really came into my favor. I kept drawing these development cards that were called monopolies, and they let me name one resource and everyone at the table has to give me all their resources of that type. So I got 2 of those and I was just stealing everyone's rocks, which are essential for building cities and stuff. And then I was building my own cities. Like I was really in it. And towards the end of the game, Georgia had 9. I had 9, Charlie had 9, and the other player had 8. And I was like, I'm in the semifinal and I have a chance of winning. And I bought a development card. I thought there was a chance that it could be a point and I could win. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It was another monopoly. And by the time it got back to Georgia, she played her card and she won the game. And of course, Charlie was like, you handed her the game. You handed her the game. You were colluding. You handed her the game. But I'm like, whatever. I got 9 points. I wasn't just handing her the game. I was doing what was best for me. I could have won on this turn, actually, if I had drawn the right card. But again, it's up to chance. So, sorry. And after the match ended, people were saying, like, what was happening at the table? I heard there was so much drama. And I was like, oh my God, like, word is spreading around. I think I have a bad reputation, so I'm scared to like return for another tournament if I decide I want to, because I'm like, I think I genuinely made enemies and I don't even know what I was doing. I guess just from playing badly, but I was having fun and it was working for me. So I don't know, just because I didn't play the way that most people in tournaments play, and just because I didn't know the strategy and I was just going off of intuition and vibes, I don't think I deserved the hate. I think they're upset that I ruined their plans, but that's part of the game. So that was my experience in the national qualifiers. Nobody I played with ended up winning the whole thing. Only the first place winner got to go to nationals. I went from 18th place to 21st place to 11th place. And after the semifinal, I ended in 8th place overall in the whole tournament. So I guess technically I'm the 8th best Catan player in all of LA. You know, I can claim that title, or at least as of this weekend. It was a wild ride. There were a lot of ups and downs. I had a blast. Immediately after my last game ended, I had a splitting headache. That we had no time for bathroom breaks. We had no time to eat food, and I didn't bring food. I kind of just assumed either there would be food or we'd have a chance to go get some. It was just one game after another. We played from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. straight with like basically no breaks. I got to pee, and at one point, a game I played in, my second game, it ended early, so I ran across the street, got Subway, ate it, and then by the time I like wiped my face, the next game was starting. I was actually late to my third game. I still feel a bit like I just got hit by a truck. Like my head is pounding still. I did not think I was going to be this wiped out, but I guess just staring at boards for that long, using my brain and staying focused for all that time used a lot of energy. Sitting in uncomfortable chairs for 10 hours under like fluorescent lighting. It was a lot. It took a toll for sure, but I would do it again. I don't know if I would do it again soon because I'm scared of all these people, but I did have a fun time. Hopefully they don't hate me. Hopefully it also like their banter was in good spirits. There wasn't actually drama, because I was playing into it because I was having fun. I was like, this is competitive. This is fun. But I am not sure for sure if that's how they interpreted it. There was a moment that I want to highlight that I think highlights the hate I was receiving. If you roll a 7 and you have more than 7 cards, you have to discard half of your hand. So you could be like building these beautiful plans. You can be collecting all these resources, and then everything's ruined because you have to toss it all away. And at that point, I think I had like 15 cards in my hand because I was just rolling really well. I had big plans. I think I could have earned like 2 points by building a bunch of stuff in that turn, but you have to roll first. And I was like, if I roll a 7, I'm going to myself. And then I rolled, and of course it was a 7. And like they genuinely looked like they wanted me to do it. Like they wanted me to die. They wanted me to die. I think that was the scariest part because I could see it in their eyes. They wanted me to go. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm not going to do a Hoot and Holler this week because my Hoot is the Catan tournament and my Holler is the hate I received at the Catan tournament. And I feel like you guys have heard enough. So I'm just going to end it here. But as always, thank you so much for listening. And thank you if you've subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And you can find all the short form content on TikTok and Instagram. So your likes and follows really help and mean a lot. So I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. But for now, I gotta go. I really gotta go. Bye.